10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yeah. Halloy, all you boggies out there. It's Aaron and Darryl, and we're here for episode 39 of Your Brain on God. You wouldn't believe it. It is our third episode of our relationship series, and we're going to be talking about what it means to truly see another person in friendships, in romantic relationships, what it means to actually see why we desire so deeply to be seen, how God sees us, and how we can better see other people so we have more healthy relationships. I know you're going to enjoy it. Make sure to follow us on all platforms, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Instagram, TikTok, all those things. We love you guys. Enjoy the episode. What are we talking about when we talk about seeing people?
Well, we're in relationships with people all the time. Anytime we're in a relationship with somebody. Any kind of relationship, even friendships, relationships, romantic, family, we're just around people. And when we're talking about seeing people, we're talking about actually seeing who the person is. Mm-hmm. Or at least when I think about it, I think about seeing who the person is without any of my own presuppositions kind of shaping that person.
Right.
And trying to see who they actually are. Mm-hmm. Like not going into a relationship or continuing a relationship, being in any relationship, thinking that I know that person and therefore I understand them completely. Because I don't think we can ever actually fully understand anyone. I think that we need to give people the chance to surprise us. And when I think about seeing somebody, I think about giving them the chance to surprise me.
Yeah.
That way, if it turns out that they're not exactly as I thought they were, I can actually see them and not think that and try to hold them in a box or something.
Yeah.
It's like not holding people to a box, not putting filters on people based on my experience with them. Although obviously my experience with someone is going to contribute to how I see them, but wanting to keep an open mind. I think that's it. It's like looking at somebody with an open mind, allowing them to truly be who they are and wanting to see who that person is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think, what you said is that we have like a lot of, preconceived notions about people, or I guess about who people are or who they should be. Mm-hmm. And we have a very limited scope. And it seems like actually we're very open to people. Well, for the most part, people are very open to people when they first meet them. And then as you start to get to know somebody, especially in relationship, when you start having a deep friendship with somebody or a deep romantic relationship with somebody, you get to know them better. Which is awesome. It's like an awesome journey of discovering who they are. And what happens is I feel like we get to know who somebody is, and then we label them as this is who that person is, right? It's like, so if they're like that joyful person that you meet, or they're that, person running after Jesus, or they have a certain set of beliefs, right? You start to get to know a person as they express themselves to be, which is an awesome journey. But I think once you get in relationships, like deeper relationships, those ideas of who a person is can become a prison for your very own relationship.
Yeah, because we change.
Yeah.
Over time, just people. Mm-hmm. As we grow, as we live life, as we experience things, as we learn, and as we make decisions, we are so able to change human beings.
Yeah.
It's like we are constantly developing as individuals and as people. And if we think that we know somebody, the next day they could be something different about them because they're growing and changing and learning and developing and, becoming somebody else. And if we always hold them to past patterns, we won't give ourselves the chance to see who they actually are.
Yeah.
And I think we'll miss out on the beauty of truly being in a relationship with somebody. Because if we can't see the person, then we can't actually be in a relationship with who that person is, because we are trying to be in a relationship with maybe who they were.
Right.
And maybe
put people in boxes, basically.
Yeah, we put them in boxes, and maybe we want to do that because it's easier. Like it feels safer to just assume that we know how the person is and how they operate, and that they're not going to change.
Yeah.
And in good ways or bad ways.
Right.
But we hold people to their past patterns.
Yeah.
You know, and
I think
I don't want to do that.
I think it makes sense. The reason that we do this is because we want to be safe. In every relationship we have, we want to be safe.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so in every friendship, we don't want to get hurt. We want to know what's going on. We want to understand the person that we're hanging out with, especially in like a marriage, you know?
Yeah.
I know Abby and I have talked about it. It's like a big fear of marriage is that it's not going to be the same as when we started, you know? And that unknown is very scary. Like somebody can change, you know? Like I think she's told me, like, what if just one day you wake up and then you're like, you just develop these belief patterns that are weird. You know what I mean? Where it's like, or whatever, right?
Which wouldn't happen all of a sudden, but
no, it wouldn't happen.
but it happens.
It wouldn't happen all of a sudden, but somebody,
happen.
you can go through trauma that affects how you act or how you respond or how you see the world, right? And I think it's scary. We like to control people, right? And so we like to see them a certain way. This person has these beliefs and they operate this way and they're this kind of person. And in a relationship, when the more that you get to know them, you want to hold on to your ideas of them, right? A lot of those, especially those good ideas of who they are, right? And then when they go outside of those things, we can fail to see that a human being is more than that, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that God made all of us, like, we're incredibly complex.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Unfathomably.
It's so unfathomable, I can't even say the word. But I think David in Psalms, like he says, like, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
You know, like the way that you've crafted me, like there's just intricacies to me that are beyond my own understanding. Like I don't even fully know myself. I can't even fully see all of the wonderful, you know, whatever you've put inside of me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's an aspect of seeing people is being able to understand that type of creation and not limiting people to their actions, to their beliefs, to their previous patterns, especially in relationship to allow, again, like you said, allow people to surprise you and to change direction, to change course, to change beliefs. And then in that, even though it's a scary thing because we like to control, it's a beautiful thing because you're seeing the fullness of a person.
Yeah.
Right. And if you limit a person, you can't, if you limit them to a certain set of core beliefs or a certain viewpoint or a certain demographic or whatever you're limiting them to, you fail to get the fullness of what God has created.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was just,
wow, that's beautiful.
it is.
Daryl's crying.
I was picturing like a tree growing and developing, like watching the tree continue to grow. You know, it's like, and if we think, oh, we want the tree to fit in this box, so we can't let it grow anymore. It's like, how terrible would that be?
Yeah.
And restrictive. But I was thinking about like personality assessments. Because I went through. I mean, I love trying to understand people in general. Just like, I mean, I want to understand individuals in my life, and I also just want to understand how people work.
Yeah, that's right.
And I don't know.
Our lives are people, so it's good to understand them.
Right. And when I was in college, maybe even before going into college, I had started this like desire to want to learn how people work. I think part of it was because I didn't really understand myself. And I was like, it was like me wanting to understand myself, but I was, instead of looking into myself, I looked outward to try to understand others.
Right.
But I got really
Which isn't
into,
a bad way to do it, I don't think.
Yeah, and I mean, I learned a lot about people, and then also byproduct, I did learn a lot about myself, you know, and started realizing things that I see within me. But I started looking into personality assessments a lot, and I have ever since, kind of. But one of the things I see often with people and personality assessments is they take an assessment and then almost treating it like that's the whole person.
Yeah.
You know, and I love personality assessments and tools that help people understand. But something that I realize is that no one assessment can ever summarize a human. Right. Because there's just too much to people. They all take different aspects of explaining people in different ways. They highlight different things about the way people might be working.
Operate.
Yeah, the way people might operate or think.
And they could be good reflective tools.
And they're
especially like, I love I think the
Totally.
Enneagram is incredibly accurate to be able to see, oh my gosh, like I really do operate this way. And it's an incredible reflective tool because it helps you be able to, I could see like why I do that or where that comes from or what trauma that comes from or maybe whatever.
Yeah, it's huge for self-awareness.
Yeah.
And it's firstly, and then also being aware of others. Like I think that they are super helpful tools to be able to see people.
Yeah.
Is to understand, because those assessments, they put language to who we are, to aspects of who we are. But we can never hold somebody to the results of some test or some assessment because they're going to be more complex than that is able to convey.
Yeah.
And even though these like assessments are helpful, they can also be unhelpful whenever they end up being boxes that we put people in.
Yeah.
You know, because that's like, oh, I know you're this result, so you're this way.
And that was a huge fad. It's like, oh, he's a 7, that's why he does that. Or, oh, you're a 3, like that's why you're going after that.
Yeah, and it's actually damaging. It
Yeah.
becomes damaging to relationships when you start using those as they're almost like weapons. And it
it's
wasn't
like
bad
a
for the
pride
Enneagram.
thing. Like I know you, you know, like, and there is like a sense of, it does feel good to know somebody, you know, like I always like rejoice when I can like because you feel like you can understand them. And I think that comes from a good desire to like want to know somebody and want to understand.
It feels like you can connect with them.
But I feel like it becomes like a weird thing. It's like, I know why you did that, or I understand you, or I don't know really where that comes from, but
I think that's a great point, is that we want to know people because I think that it could be, you know, multiple facets to it. Pride could be one. It just feels good to know things.
Yeah.
We've talked about that in the past. Like we get little bursts of dopamine when we argue for something we believe.
Like we did a 6 Geniuses test, which is like, it's 6 Geniuses. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it did a 6 Geniuses test, and one of my coworkers, I got his 6 Geniuses in a row to a T.
Wow.
Like I literally was like, your 2 geniuses are this and this, and I got them like in order. Your 2
your
competent,
top 2,
your
middle 2,
and your
working frustrations.
Your working frustrations are this and this, and I nailed him. And I felt so good about myself. I was like, yeah, I know you, you know. But also, if you do that, you can prevent someone from growing. You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, this is what you are, and this is what, you know. It helps you because I can put that person in places where they're going to succeed. But also, it might prevent me from allowing that person to grow in areas that are frustrating or just like average for them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So I think that
sorry to cut you off. You were
no, I think that you were giving an example of one of those aspects. It feels good to know somebody.
Yeah.
And there's like, I don't know, there's a sense of pride, I think, that comes, and ego, like this confidence, like, yes, like I know you, and it feels safe. It feels powerful. Yeah. I think another part of it
Do you think that if we know somebody, we have power over them?
Do we have power over them? I don't know. Maybe we would feel like we have power over them, or at least we can predict how they're going to behave. And so then we can behave a certain way to get a certain reaction from them.
Right, which makes you feel powerful. But also you can control somebody. You know what makes them tick. You know what's in them. You know,
can push the buttons.
You can push.
That's true.
You can push the buttons. And that makes you feel like the more that someone opens up to you, right, they're in a place of submission to you.
And vulnerability.
Of vulnerability, right?
If not submission, but vulnerability is a word.
Yeah. But I mean, I think you're opening yourself up to when somebody knows you, they got stuff on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess that could be perverted to make you feel powerful over that person if you know stuff that they've been honest with you about, or you know intricate things in them.
Yeah, and I'm sure that
maybe I'm getting ahead of myself on what we're talking about, but
no, I think that that is part of maybe why we wouldn't want to be seen. Right. Like, I think that could be part of us not allowing other people to actually see us.
Right. Because it does give power to somebody. Yeah. Right. Now you have the ability to harm me. Right. Or you have the ability to hurt me, you know, and that's scary to open up, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think there is something inside of us as well that wants to connect with others. And when we feel like we can understand somebody, we feel like we can relate with them. You know, it's like, I know how to connect with you. Yeah. Because I understand how you think, how you operate, what you believe. And so I can create a point of connection because I see who you are. At least I feel like I see who you are. Yeah. And so I don't know. Why does it feel good? I think that those are the things that come to my mind. I think one is that sense of power maybe and pride or control, that we understand something and we feel safe because we know it. Right. And then also an aspect of we want to connect and relate with people because we're social beings. You know, we're created for community.
And then we're created to be seen, I think. You know, like, and that's why it's important in relationship is because everybody wants to be seen.
Yeah.
Like I think of a kid coming up and saying like, look what
I did.
Look at me. Look at what I did. Look what I accomplished. Like, look at me. Look how I dance. Look how I skate. Look how I, you know,
look at me,
you know,
look what I'm doing.
And I think we have a deep desire to be known. And then in relationship, we allow ourselves to be known and we get hurt. So we forsake the honor of being known in order to protect and wall up. You know, but each of us has a desire to be seen. It feels good for someone to understand you. Like one of Abby's favorite things like that I do is when I notice something like intricate about her that like maybe only she knows, or she's like, you recognize that? Or you recognize that I do that? Or you see me in that? Or you notice that I did that because, you know, and that actually establishes connection because it's like, you know me, you see me, and you're open to me, you know. And I have that's why people even dive into things like pride or talking about themselves or even the unhealthy things that people do, social media, all that stuff. It's like it exacerbates our deep desire to be seen.
Yeah.
You know, and it perpetuates it in a way as well.
Right.
But that's we want to be seen by people. We want people to know what we're doing and what we're accomplishing and who we're with and the relationship we have. We want them to see the good things that are going on. We want us to see them, you know, even the negative stuff on social media that people post. Like, I don't know. I remember just looking at Facebook posts of like people posting how depressed they were and stuff. And I was like, not the spot, but you want to be seen, and that's a good desire.
That was like was that a thing that happened and doesn't really happen much anymore?
No,
I don't
it
know.
still happens.
I don't go on social media as much, but I remember there being a time seeing a lot of people just airing out their baggage.
And then what are you supposed to do? Like? It's like,
is there a dislike button?
Yeah.
Or does that communicate the wrong thing?
Yeah, I know. Dislike, or you comment sorry. Like, what do you want from this? But it's not the best way to go about it. But the whole reason I'm saying that is because people will go to even unhealthy lengths to be seen.
Right. Yeah.
And so how do we in relationships actually allow people to be seen in a healthy way? You know, because those ways aren't really the best. You know, social media is not the best way to truly be known.
Right. No.
Or truly be seen. You know, you're going to have a bunch of people that see you from the outside, but they don't see the day-to-day. And most of the time we're posting things that are really, really good, you know?
Yeah. And what you were saying, it's dangerous even as well to be too vulnerable with too many people or maybe not safe people.
Yeah.
Because people can manipulate the information you give them, or they can... if they're not safe people or the right people to open up to, they could even feed into it, you know, and make it even worse, whatever negative things you're experiencing. And being able to open up and have vulnerable conversations in order to be seen needs to be done in a safe relationships. Safe relationship, have people that can actually see us.
Yeah.
I just thought of my own experience. Maybe we can go, I was thinking of the question, like, what does that look like I was going to ask you.
What
does it look like for you to be seen? Yeah.
Right.
What does it feel like for you to be seen? Because I was thinking about my own experience of feeling seen, like one of the most extreme situations in my life where I felt seen, you know?
Say it.
I'll go first.
Yeah. I mean, you had it, so.
And it was, I'm not going to go into details, but time where I most felt seen was whenever I had confessed something that was the worst season of my life and worst like mistakes that I made, bad decisions, and feeling like and so much shame being attached to what I was talking about.
Right.
And me coming to this place of realizing I need to tell somebody. I need to tell Brittany. And I started with telling Brittany, which this was before we were engaged. It was right before I wanted to propose to her. And I realized like I need to tell her this part of my life and this thing that happened in the past, and like I want her to know me because I want her to actually see me, because I want her to know who she's in a relationship with, and I had
that
all
is
this,
so wise that you that you would share that. Yeah,
and I had so much shame that was holding me back from doing it, and with it a fear of being rejected, a fear of her not seeing who I felt like I actually was, even though I had done these things, or I was caught up in this stuff, and feeling like I need to. I don't feel like this is who I am, but I think if I tell her, she's gonna think this is who I am.
Right.
And I was so scared, but I realized like I need to actually let her see me. So I told her, and I had never felt more seen in my life, because I had never been more vulnerable, in my life. But then she actually used the words, I know that's not who you are.
Yeah, that's huge.
And that made me feel so seen, like she actually sees me, not just things that I have done.
Beyond what you've done.
Beyond my actions, and she knows my heart. She knows who I am, like the deep parts of me. And I had felt so seen, because it seemed like she was not looking at, the things on the surface, or, it's like it felt like she had seen inside of me. And I was scared that was part of me, and I didn't want it to be,
Right.
But I felt like she was able to see deeper into me, and confirm to like who I was. It's like calling me, like seeing the image of God in me.
Yeah.
And we've had conversations about that, but like seeing the image of God in me and seeing me for who I actually was, not based on what I had done.
Right.
And feeling seen was an incredible, like freeing feeling.
Yeah.
Like when I felt seen, I felt so open. I felt like, wow, I can talk about anything because she knows who I am.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna change
her mind
about me, because she knows me and she sees me.
Yeah.
And it created this sense of safety, this sense of feeling known, this sense that I could talk and be open and vulnerable. And it was it was one of the most freeing things. And then I had the same kind of conversation with a couple of people, you being one of them. Yeah. And the people that I talked with said the same thing. Like, I know it's not who you are.
Right. Yeah.
And it was like life-changing for me, because I didn't think it was who I was, but I knew that it was something I had done. And I was afraid that it was going to be attached to me,
Yeah.
And people saying that to me allowed me to let that go and actually walk in freedom from the shame, and the weight of that. My eyes are watering.
I know, mine started to water too.
But yeah, so I mean,
I was there.
You were there. Feeling seen, is freeing.
Is freeing.
And it feels there's something so uplifting, and
when you're seen by the right people.
When you're seen by the right people,
it's so freeing.
Yeah,
because like we said, some people will take you being seen and use it for their own power trip, and you really have to allow yourself to be seen by the right people. And it makes me think about my call, even from God, as someone seen by God, to be able to see other people, and how the healing work that I could be a part of by seeing past someone's faults, by really seeing their heart, by really seeing their intention, by really seeing their character beyond what they've been living in, or what they've been doing, or what they say, and it's difficult because it feels, I think, well, I don't know where I want to go into right now, but it's a difficult thing to do. I think when you have people that are willing to see people beyond their own needs or fears, that's huge. You know what I mean? Because when you're really open and honest about something that was a part of your life, or something that could literally destroy other people or hurt other people, right? To be able to see somebody, you have to set my own expectations of that person off. I got to set my own, if I'm in relationship with you, what does this mean for our relationship if you're this way, or that you've done this before, right? My own fears of the future. If you've done maybe this thing before, are you going to do it again? Right? To really see somebody and say, that's not who you are. That's a vulnerable thing to say too. Right. Because it really is like a courageous thing to be able to see somebody and to proclaim, that's not who you are, and I'm going to stick with you no matter what. Right. Like that's healing and freeing for them, and it's sacrificial, because you're putting yourself in a position with that person to be with a person that might be a broken person, God forbid, but that is a vulnerable thing for both sides. I think it's and that's why we, maybe even going back to what we were talking about, close our eyes off to see people or to really see their heart or to judge people based on appearances, because that could affect my life, and you're not about to bring all that stuff into my life,
right? And so as a way of protecting ourselves, it is like what you said earlier, it's safer to assume this person is like this, and so I'm staying away, or this person is like this, so I'm gonna expect them to be that way.
I think I think it really, for me, comes from being seen by God. I think talking about what it feels like to be seen by God, or to be seen, it's like that for me, I think of being seen by the Lord, and he is the God who sees me as Abraham's slave woman, Hagar, Hagar says, when she basically gets cast off by Sarah in Genesis, and then she's out in the wilderness with nothing and this baby boy, and she's like looking at him 500 feet away, like, what am I going to do? He's going to die. And then God shows up and says, I'm going to make a great nation of even you, a slave woman, what I mean, who was basically forced to carry this other guy's child. And she says, this is the place where God sees me. And she changes his name, or she says, she calls God the God who sees me. And I think that's really powerful. In Jeremiah, it says, before I formed you, I knew you. And that to me is life-changing, to be so intimately known by my maker. And because he's my creator and he knows everything about me, he still sees me, and in seeing me, he loves me and cares for me, even with all of maybe some of the wicked thoughts that I have and the double-mindedness I have. One day I'm in, one day I'm out, and he's still faithful to me and still sees me. And I think I've, had many moments of thanking God and weeping in his presence to realize I don't even think you should see me anymore. Then in even like a pride of like, God, if you really saw what I see about me, you wouldn't be okay. You know what I mean? Like you can't be seeing this, right? Because you're still loving me, you're still seeing me, and I think that's huge in seeing people is God. He sees his image and he sees his son, Jesus, and if you're covered by the blood of Jesus, he sees his son, Jesus, And I also don't like that theological thing where it's like Jesus just covers your sin. What I mean? Like it's like he's a blanket.
It's like he's blinding God from who
he's
you
blinding
actually are.
God from who I actually am. And I don't think that's what the gospel entails. I think it actually entails a new heart. And I think the way he actually sees me is not like through some blinding where he's covering his eyes to my sin, but he like has actually transformed my heart where sin is not in me.
And he sees who you
and
actually
he sees
are.
who I actually am. Even in all my brokenness, he sees me and calls me good. And that's how I take into seeing other people is if God could see me that way, I think everything flows from heaven and out onto earth. So if God could see me that way, I feel obligated in a good way, not a sense of religious duty necessarily. I feel called heavily in my life to be able to do the same thing for people, right? To be able to see people even in their sin and stuff that's damaging to me, and to be able to say, even when I'm hurt and expressing my hurt to somebody, but I know that's not who you are, right? And I know that you're more than that, and I know that you're the image of God and you're created in his likeness, and I know that this isn't who you are, and there's if God sees that in me. And that's changed the way I see myself, because oftentimes our relationships are mirrors too, right? So I'm going to be able to see people if I feel seen. If you don't feel seen, you're going to not be able to see other people, You're really not going to step out. Maybe to some extent, but like really when you start seeing yourself and know that, oh my gosh, I'm seen and loved by God, that's when really being able to see other people starts,
We stop ourselves from seeing other people, even because we might still be trying to be seen or worried about what people are seeing. Rather than actually trying to see the other person. But I love what you said, Aaron, about seeing how God sees you, and then seeing other people through that same lens, like recognizing God created us in his image, and he knows that.
Yeah.
He doesn't think that now that we've done something else, we are no longer in his image, because he made us in his image.
Yeah. It doesn't negate the fact that we're his image.
Right. And when he looks at us, he sees himself inside his son. He sees Jesus in us, but he sees his image because he put his image in us. We are here as the image of God.
Right.
And when we look at other people, it's when we can look and see the image of God in somebody, it's an acknowledgement that the dumb decisions that they've made is not who they are.
Right.
And the messed up and broken things in their life is not who they are. They are still the image of God. Even though there's brokenness, even though we make mistakes and we continually make mistakes and we have things that we work through, who we are is still the image of God. And that's still the most purest form of us.
Yeah.
Right? If we boiled everything down, it's like, I am convinced of this, and this is maybe some people might say I give too much grace to people, but I am convinced that at the heart of every person is good.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds ignorant sometimes.
I know.
I think it sounds ignorant.
Err on the side of ignorance with those things all the time.
But
I might not know. I might be deceived, but I'm like, this is a good deception.
And I know that me believing that doesn't make me think that people can't do bad things, because people do bad things all the time.
Yeah.
But in what I've seen, what I've experienced, even what like research stuff, it feels like usually it's some kind of brokenness that's causing people to do bad things. It's like they're hurting, they've been hurt, there's something wrong, and then it leads them down a certain path.
Or your sense of justice gets twisted. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know. You think like gangs or whatever, they even have a sense of justice. Like there's a virtue. There's virtue even involved in evil.
And
you know
honor.
what I mean? It's
like this type of honor.
Brotherhood, honor, family, all good values and virtues even that are twisted and perverted.
Right.
I think all of that stuff comes from sin is a good desire perverted.
Yeah. And people who have gone down dark paths have also turned to the light. And if I believe that people who do bad things are bad and wicked, then I wouldn't believe that person can turn to the light. Because if they're gone down a wicked path, what is it inside of them that would ever make them turn a different way? I don't think I can believe that person can be reached by Jesus unless I think that there is the image of God still inside that person.
Yeah.
That Jesus and that calls out of them. It's like he gives us a new heart, but we're in his image before that. And he gives us a new heart, and that transforms us. Right. And then we're able to live in a way that actually shows up. That
actually
shows
looks
up
like
Jesus,
the image of God.
That looks like the image of God.
Right.
And the image of God inside of us can get perverted and and broken and changed, but it's still there.
Right.
And I don't know. I feel like I have to believe that that every person is capable of repentance. Yeah. And every person is capable of turning to God.
Yeah.
Whether or not they actually do or don't is, it's not in my control.
Right.
But I have to believe that people are capable. And that's part of how I maintain seeing people is like, it's like, even if they've done the worst things, I still need to see that there's potential for good, because I believe in a God who brings good out of who can bring good out of anything.
Right. Yeah. I think this plays out a lot on the day to day. I think that's where it's most like really hard to see, especially in those close, intimate relationships, people you see every day.
Yep.
It's hard to maintain that, especially in romantic relationships, to continue to see past maybe the way, even it gets even more specific on how you have to be able to see somebody, right? Because you start to like adapt to how they say things, what they do, little idiosyncrasies that they have, and you really have to work to see that person in front of you and not get maybe marks on your eyes that prevent you from seeing them, right? Because the people that you're closest to every day, they're the people that most affect you, right? And you see them operate every day, and you start to know them, you know what I mean? Yeah. How they operate, how they act, how they talk and speak, and, operate with other people. And then you're going to start noticing problems, You know what I mean? Because you're intimately involved with that people. That's why sometimes it was always easier for me to minister to people I had no idea who they were than my own family.
Right.
Because it's like, the homeless guy on the street, it's like, I have no connection to this guy, no tie to this guy. I don't know. So when he tells me his sins, I'm like, bruh, forgiveness in Jesus' name. You're clean. You're awesome. Healing. But all this stuff. And then my own family does it. And I'm like, bruh, you've apologized for this 18,000 times. Like, I ain't going to take this again. It's totally different to continue to see that person, but it is what God calls us to, the everyday. And that's where it gets good, though. That's when we can start to get good at seeing people in conversation, especially in intimate relationships, when somebody is saying something to you. And this is the little things, right? Someone's saying something to you and you're not getting it, but you choose to try and understand and to see them in the midst of it being really, really confusing. They could say something angering, and then you continue to see who they are. They could say something off-putting, and you continue to see who they are. And I am the first one to say I am not the best at this, but right? But because things get on your nerves, or things bother you, or things trigger you, or whatever, right? But that's when the test of, are we really seeing each other in relationship? That's when it gets tested, and that's when it gets good. That's when relationships really, you start iron sharpening iron, and it hurts, right? Is in those little moments of like, bruh, you gonna tell me that, or you're gonna say that, or I'm confused, and then you continue to be like, you're the child of God, and I see potential in you, and I see God in you, and I see the image in you, and everything you're saying is hurting my heart, and I'm feeling really insecure. You know what I mean? But I see God in you. You know what I mean? And when it's deeply affecting you, you have to again throw down your own pride and continue to see that person. That is woo.
Yeah. And for me, in my own experience, it's actually, I even get offended less often because I'm trying to see the other person,
right?
Rather than taking what they say and assuming that they're trying to hurt me, and assuming that they're saying this bad, negative, mean stuff. It's
and if that's the goal, then it makes conversation different. If my goal is to see you, then, and not to be right, or not to, whatever.
Yeah. It's like I must be misunderstanding something because I know who you are, right? It's like, I know you're not trying to hurt me, or I know you're not trying to say something that's mean and hurtful and rude. And so I'm not going to take offense or pay attention to those things. I want to look into you. I want to see who are you, and what is it that's inside of you. And opportunities to get hurt, it become less frequent, because instead of holding on to what's being said, I'm looking at, well, what's inside the heart, what's actually trying to be communicated, what's actually going on.
That's so powerful. I'm not going to get offended because I know who you are, and I know it's way deeper than this. So let's get to the root of it. What's going on, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's been a big thing for me, just practically practicing.
Yeah.
Seeing somebody and the impact that it can have.
Yeah.
And something that like something small happened. I mean, you talked about in relationships, in like intimate relationships, it can happen more often because you're around them all the time, you see them all the time, you have deep conversations, and you feel like you know them.
Yeah.
It's like they're the person you probably know the most, is the person that you have like an intimate relationship with, because you're most open with them, they're really open with you, and you get to see each other. But then even in those contexts, if we think we know them, we will hold them, we'll put them in a box, or maybe we'll take something that we know about them and we'll apply it to something else that maybe isn't actually true in this situation. And something happened the other night with Brittany where I was misunderstanding what was going on inside of her, and she hadn't put it into words yet, but I had already filled in the blank about like why she was feeling the way she was feeling.
Like you understood her.
I thought, because there's been this kind of a struggle in the past, or this kind of a thought in the past, she's probably thinking this right now, and da-da-da.
So rather than getting curious.
And I wasn't curious. Right. And I think that's a key, is like staying curious.
Right.
I had assumed something based off of something that she said, so I figured that this is what she was thinking, and da-da-da-da. And then it became this really big moment of like her feeling misunderstood, because, well, she was.
Yeah.
She was misunderstood, and I felt like, well, I didn't realize this was such a big deal. I didn't know what was going on, and then so we ended up talking about it eventually, and I came to find out that I was treating something as not important when it was really important to her. And I just assumed this isn't an important thing, you know?
And
you
we're both in
shouldn't think
agreement.
it's an important thing either, because it's not important.
Yeah, we're both in agreement, right? This is unimportant, and you're just this way, and you're acting ridiculous,
right?
You know,
and I was
rather than
totally
seeing
in the
what-
wrong, and I wasn't trying to understand her. I was assuming that she was understanding the same way that I understand it.
Yeah,
And I, and that can happen when we think we know somebody. We put our own understanding into the mix, and we assume that they think that we know what's going on inside of them.
right.
And it's so important to stay curious.
Yeah,
To,
And to
actually
listen.
try to see them and to listen. Right? Yeah, to listen to them,
Yeah.
and not listen to what I think they're like, what I want them to say, or
Right.
what I assume they're going to be saying.
Yeah,
Because then I start listening for certain things that's going to confirm what I already believe about them.
And I think asking questions is something, one, it's what Jesus does a lot. I think questions reveal things, right? And whenever you give a question, you give kind of the space for another person to answer that question and to actually provide clarity and understanding. And it's so huge in relationships, is even things that you're like, I'm pretty sure this is it, to ask a question about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Could, instead of saying like, I get it, you're feeling insecure, you could say, is this making you feel any internal thing? You know what I mean? Or is this making you feel at all inadequate? Or this is what I'm picking up? You know what I mean? Like, those kind of phrases dissolve the conflict that arises when you
just assume something.
when you just assume something, and we all know about assumptions. But so when you just assume something that it's that way, it's a naturally going to breed conflict if you're wrong. If you're right, I mean, it could still be like,
it could still bring conflict.
It could still be it could still bring conflict, because it's like,
being right doesn't bring peace.
wow, dude. Should we call the episode that? Jeez. Oh my God, that's such a good relationship quote right there.
Being right doesn't bring peace.
Oh, Darryl, that's so good. Oh, I'm sorry, Lord. Okay. Yes. Wow. That's huge. Sorry. Can we just talk about that
Just
for a
can
second?
pause for a moment. Yeah.
Can we pause for a
Just let
second?
that sink in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
makes
Being right. And that's what we think it's like, it'll bring peace, but it's not always the case that being right will bring peace.
Yeah.
And it's in those questions that you actually get to a chance to understand that person. And again, that's hard to do, because then listening requires sacrifice, right? I mean, it requires, to extent, time, more time than assuming does, right? And thinking that you know it already, right? It requires care. It requires you to get your emotional grace up, right? It requires you to put on something, right? And that can be difficult, especially if you're going through your own stuff, you know?
Yeah.
To sit, and that's why oftentimes when we're exhausted, when we're anxious, when we can't even see ourselves, it's hard to see other people, right? Because it's like, I can't even put on my own clothes, let alone somebody else's. You know what I mean? I can't tie my own shoes, let alone tie your shoes right now, you know, like, or care for you, right? So it's like, I got to care for myself, right? But in those moments, okay, I got to put that on. I'm going to get curious. I'm going to I'm going to answer, and it's always worth the fruit than assuming, which causes usually damage that you'll have to fix later.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think it's funny, our idea of fixing things in relationship, because often the way that we want to fix things quick always ends up being a longer fix than actually sitting with somebody.
Right.
Does that make sense? So it's like, I could try to quick fix something and hope it gets fixed in 2 minutes. It ends up being an hour of talking through what I meant by trying to fix it. Or I could actually sit with someone for 15 minutes and they feel seen, heard, and they end up getting healed in 15 minutes rather than me trying to fix it in one.
Right.
You know, and it's always better sometimes it's better to take the scenic route, you know? And that's pretty good too. Take the scenic route with people. Start seeing all the different aspects of the
scenic route.
The scenic route. But that's interesting. But holy moly, being right does not always bring peace. Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's talking about seeing people in intimate relationships. I remember
Wait, what?
when we were
talking about looking at people.
Well, seeing people like in relationships,
right.
you know, in close relationships.
Right. For some reason, I got the vision of you with binoculars, just people looking at people walking, holding hands.
I'm always seeing people who are in intimate relationships.
I don't know why. I don't see you as a creeper, Darryl.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thanks for seeing me.
Yeah, I see you there.
In intimate relationships, I think it can become easiest to take a back seat when it comes to being intentional about seeing the other person. And
Wait,
saying,
what?
In intimate relationships, it can be easiest to take a back seat when it comes to seeing somebody intentionally.
Like to stop seeing them. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, in intimate relationships, it's easier to stop actually seeing who they are.
Right, yeah.
Because we're around them so much, we get familiar, we get comfortable, everything becomes kind of normal, you know. And I remember after I'd been married for like 3 months, me and Brittany were dating for, I guess, 2 years, almost 2 years at that point. We were married for 3 months. And I remember thinking like, wow, I'm still getting to know who she is. And looking back, I'm like, wow, it was such a small time frame to get to know somebody. But I remember having this feeling like, oh, wow, I'm still getting to know her. Like, this is so like awesome, learning new things about her and discovering who she is. And now that we're like living together, and I was talking to people, I was actually like on a walk with some older guys who'd been married for, 20 years or something. And one of them like kind of chuckled because I'd only married for 3 months,
Right.
And, but they saw it as like a sweet thing, precious thing. And, in our intimate relationships, I think that we can always continually get to know who somebody is.
Yeah.
And I know this, I feel this and believe this. This is something that I stand by because I've seen people who have been in relationships for decades who are still getting to know who their intimate other is.
Yeah.
Who their significant other is. And to think that because I've been knowing somebody, I've been married to Brittany for 2 years, I know who she is, I know how she works, I know how she thinks, is so arrogant and so ignorant, and it's so close-minded.
Yeah.
When there was this, one of my old pastors who was talking about people and relationships, and he was talking about his wife and getting to know his wife, and him recognizing that she is unknowable, she is unsearchable. And they had been married, he was like 60 or 70, they've been married for decades and decades and decades. And to hear him talk about that, about his wife, who he's known for so many years and gone through so many seasons of life and raised children, and the children set off and now they have their own families, and they're in this stage of kind of just like retirement and preaching and, being a pastor at a church. But like, it's like they're in this stage of life, and he recognizes that she's still learning, growing, and developing. And he related it to like a book or like studying a subject.
Yeah.
And it's like a subject that's constantly having more books being released to study. And it's like a book that's constantly being written. You've never finished. You're never going to finish reading this book. It's constantly being written. And if you think that you finished reading the book, you're going to miss out on everything else of who this person is.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And that has inspired me, and something that I hold on to when it comes to my relationship with Brittany. I'm never going to fully understand and know who she is. And I always want to be learning and paying attention and seeing how she operates and watching how she grows and changes and develops and what she learns. And earlier this week, so we had just spent 2 weeks, well, more than that, quarantined together because of COVID. But
stupid COVID.
Earlier this week, she said that she realized she's still learning things about me. She's like, I love that I get to learn who you are, and I get to see you, and I get to like, I'm realizing I'm still figuring out the way that you operate in little ways, and seeing you think about things in a certain way, or the way that you process, and I'm just noticing different little things about you. And that made me feel seen by her.
It's like, I'm more than what you thought I was.
Right. Yeah. But it's
why is this episode so emotional for me?
It's very real.
It's a very real thing.
I think that it's something that we want to be seeing as people, and we even want to see other people,
Yeah.
We want to see people. We want to know them and love them. And
I think about it like the ocean, Have we discovered like 10% of the ocean or something like that? Something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I feel like how much even more intricate is like the soul of a human being.
Yeah.
Like the spirit of somebody, the mind of somebody. That's how I see it, I guess,
Yeah.
And just to be able to be open as from when how we started it, to be surprised by somebody and to notice the little intricacies and the way that they're growing, oftentimes when relationships start to get dull is when you stop seeking out the person, when you stop getting curious about who they are, what they think about things, when you stop asking specific questions and what they believe about things, what they care about, what they've been thinking about, when you stop getting intentional about getting to know somebody, you can start to see them according to how you last saw them.
Right.
And I love that it's a book that never stops being written, because we're always developing, right? We're always learning more things and figuring things out. And I'm not the same person I was, 5 years ago, even a year ago. I'm not the same person. I don't have the same relation to the world that I did a year ago. I don't operate necessarily exactly the same with people that I did a year ago. I'm growing in that and learning how to love better, how to think better, how to understand better, how to research better, how to be a better human being. How to be in relationship with people in a way that brings about more love. I'm learning how to do these things, and I want people to know and be able to see even that kind of growth, the newness on top of that, So if I want that in my spirit, I know that other people are desiring that too. I think a lot of us have the same core values, or like the same core desires inside of us. We're made to have that connection with people, and so I just want to be a part of giving that to other people. And it's not about getting it perfect all the time, right? But it's about learning and at least being open to say, God, help me see people the way that you see me. Right.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. If we can see people the way that God sees me or sees them,
Yeah. And it's like, I don't want to get to a point where I'm just getting, bored with people or have settled with the ideas that I have of people. I don't want to do that. It's like, slap me if I get to that place where it's like I've figured life out, or I've figured people out, or I've figured out my wife or whatever. I don't want to do that. I want to be on a journey. And I think that is where the joy is in the journey of discovering somebody still. And that's what we love, right? It's like, especially when you're in that honeymoon or whatever, you're discovering so much. And when you have a baby, I'm discovering how to be a parent, and we love growth and stuff. But if you have two people that are desiring growth, it's like, there's always more stuff to learn,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, And again, I guess that's another aspect too, is to always continue to see. I think there's something that's required of that other person to continue to be seen, and that's a desire to grow, I think, too. Right? Like, I think if someone's like set on just staying exactly the same, then you're going to have a problem, like, or they don't express what they're thinking about or saying, right? They're not giving themselves an opportunity to be seen. It's going to be hard to see that person.
It's going to be harder to see it.
Right? But if you have, two people in a friendship, in a relationship that are saying, we're on a mission to grow and we're on a mission to see each other grow, then it's like beauty, 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 beauty. Even for someone who's not willing to grow, you could still see them as the image of God, though.
Yeah.
But I think it makes it more beautiful when you have two people that are desiring to grow and to change and to get molded and are sharing their beliefs and their opinions and their ideas and all that stuff. When you have an open space where that's happening, it's easier to be seen, obviously.
Right.
Because you're allowing yourself to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it requires vulnerability. It requires vulnerability to be seen and also to see others.
Yeah.
That's good. That's it.
Dude, I just want you to leave with being right doesn't bring peace all the time. That was
being right.
That was a banger, Darryl. Woohoo! Holy
being
moly.
Right doesn't bring peace. No. Being seen.
Being seen brings peace.
I think that there's always going to be more peace between two people who see each other than two people who are right.
Yeah.
or people who think they're right,
Right.
It's like, I'd rather spend time trying to see Brittany than trying to prove why I'm right.
Yeah.
It's like, what is that going to do?
Yeah. Just creates a weird power dynamic. Yeah.
And then at least if I see her, then there'll be a better chance that she's going to see me.
Right. And understand you and be open to understand where you're coming from and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good. I think we're done.
I think we're done. I feel like we're done.
I think that was good. Yeah.
I'm sure there's more to say for sure on seeing people, but
that one got me on the internals, man.
It was a good conversation.
It got me on the internals. We were thinking before we started, I was like, I just feel like this is going to be a good episode. I feel the spirit on it. I feel the Holy Holy Ghost on it. Oh, yeah. Can you imagine listening to an hour podcast where it was just that the whole time?
You'd be pumped.
Yeah. Someone comment and amen.
Comment and amen.
It's not even live.
I know. So many comments.
I love it. I love it so much. Oh my gosh. All right.
Yeah.
Well, follow us, guys. First, before follow us, we love you guys. And
We love
you're
you.
awesome.
Yeah.
And we're glad that we hope that you're getting something. And we're thankful that you guys are partnering with us in conversation about these things, and journeying with us to grow into some of these things so that we could live lives with a brain on God.
Yes. I hope this conversation helps more conversations like this happen with people, I think that these are that's probably always our hope, is that we can inspire people to have good conversation. Yeah,
good conversation, and then to talk with your friends and maybe even like your spouse, about what it means to see them.
Yeah, what makes them feel seen?
What makes them feel seen?
Wow, that's a good question. I should ask Brittany.
Yeah. What makes you feel seen?
What makes you feel seen?
What makes you feel known? And to allow them to respond and to get curious about that. And then figure out ways to love them by seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. All right. And also, follow us on YouTube and Spotify, iTunes, all of the above. TikTok, Instagram, Your Brain on God, everywhere. Go everywhere and follow us everywhere. We adore you. We long for you. What? What? We
just want to be with you everywhere you go. On all platforms.
We're with you when you're sleeping. See you guys. Oh my gosh. Aaron. Peace out.
Bye.